Young lady, you don't fool me one bit.
I'm not trying to, but I bet I could, though.
Most Hollywood legends live and die under bright lights and big headlines. But in some cases, their final resting places hold secrets and surprises that even their biggest fans never expected. This list will surprise you more than your imagination on what we might know. Let's start the journey. Charles Bronson, the simple stone tough guy. Charles Bronson, revered for rugged roles in Death Wish and The Magnificent Seven, projected an implacable tough guy persona on film. Off-screen, he was born Charles Bukinski in Pennsylvania to Lithuanian immigrants, worked in coal mines, and served in World War II, earning a Purple Heart, I would call it, as a hero of our time. Despite his fame, he kept a low profile and protected his privacy. So it's fitting that when Bronson died in 2003, he was buried in the quiet Brownsville Cemetery in West Windsor, Vermont. He'd owned a home in the area and relished its rural calm, about as far as you can get from the glare of Hollywood. His grave is unassuming, a small stone bearing his name and dates. Locals say you could walk right by without realizing you're passing the final resting place of a big-screen vigilante. Yet fans do make the trek. They leave tokens like coins and notes, marveling at the contrast between Bronson's action hero image and the serene corner he now occupies. In a poetic twist, the man so often seen dealing out cinematic justice found contentment among Vermont's pastoral beauty. It's a powerful reminder that the public persona rarely tells the whole story. Choosing a peaceful burial spot is one thing. Having your remains shot from a cannon is quite another. That's exactly how one gonzo journalist departed this world. Fred Gwyn, the towering actor in an unmarked grave. Fred Gwyn is forever etched in popular culture as Herman Munster, the big-hearted, big-footed father in TV's classic show, The Munsters. Standing at 6'5", Gwyn's presence was larger than life on screen. Yet, away from the cameras, he was quiet, intensely private, and full of surprises, much like his unmarked final resting place. When he passed away in 1993, Gwyn chose to be buried in the Sandy Mount United Methodist Church graveyard in Finksburg, Maryland. Instead of a flashy tombstone or elaborate tribute, he opted for no visible marker at all. Fans who make the pilgrimage sometimes wander through rows of headstones trying to guess which spot is his. No fancy inscription, no name carved in marble. Just peace and anonymity in a small-town churchyard. Why Maryland? Gwyn owned a farm. Nearby, a place he escaped to whenever Hollywood's glare became too bright. He was also a gifted artist and children's book illustrator who prized his family life more than his showbiz success. His unmarked grave reflects that desire to remain out of the limelight when it came to personal matters. For anyone determined to find him, the church is still open to respectful visitors. Just don't expect a map or sign. In life, Fred Gwyn made people laugh, but in death, he left us guessing. While one star hides from public gaze in death, another legend turned her resting place into one of the world's most famous fan shrines. David Bowie, the ashes in Bali. David Bowie was a shapeshifter in every sense of the word. From Ziggy Stardust to the Thin White Duke, he reinvented himself musically and visually throughout his storied career. But in his final act, Bowie slipped away quietly. Passing in 2016 after a private battle with cancer, he requested a discreet cremation and the scattering of his ashes in Bali, Indonesia, according to Buddhist rites. Why Bali? Bowie is said to have fallen in love with the island's lush landscapes and spiritual atmosphere. Little is known about the precise location where his ashes were laid to rest. His family has never publicly confirmed the exact spot. This choice suits Bowie's lifelong ability to remain just out of reach, an enigma as mysterious as his otherworldly performances. Fans now pay tribute globally, holding listening parties, creating artwork, and revisiting his vast discography that spanned decades of musical innovation. While there's no official Bowie grave to visit, the entire world feels like his memorial, from the clubs of London to the beaches of Bali, all humming with echoes of his restless creativity. Groucho Marx, the comedic final quip. Groucho Marx's trademark painted mustache, arched eyebrows, and razor-sharp one-liners made him a comedy icon. Alongside his brothers, he turned stage and screen into uproarious adventures, always ready, with a sly insult or a perfectly timed punchline. True to form, he reserved one last joke for his own tombstone. When Groucho passed away in 1977, his ashes were placed at Eden Memorial Park in the San Fernando Valley. While you might imagine some grand monument for a legend of laughter, the reality is surprisingly simple. What sets it apart is his epitaph, rumored to reference the comedic style he was famous for. Some stories say it reads, "I'll be happy to raise you from the dead for a 10% finder's fee," although the official plaque might be more subdued. Either way, fans still show up with flowers, coins, and heartfelt notes, leaving behind a quiet giggle in his memory. That's the genius of Groucho. Even in death, he can't resist getting the last word. He once said, "I never forget a face, but in your case, I'll make an exception," capturing his irreverent style. For devotees of old Hollywood humor, Eden Memorial Park remains a pilgrimage site, proving that a well-placed one-liner can outlive even the man who coined it. Gene Roddenberry, The Final Frontier. Gene Roddenberry imagined a universe where humanity reached beyond Earth's boundaries and found hope among the stars. As the creator of Star Trek, he challenged audiences to dream of space travel and intergalactic unity. So it's only fitting that he became the first person to have his remains carried beyond Earth. When Roddenberry died in 1991, a portion of his ashes was carried aboard the Space Shuttle Columbia in 1992. They orbited our planet for 6 days before returning to Earth, but that wasn't his only cosmic send-off. Later, in 1997, more of his ashes were launched into deep space on a separate rocket, allowing him a permanent presence in the final frontier he so brilliantly imagined. This wasn't a random gimmick. It was the ultimate embodiment of Roddenberry's philosophy that humanity's future lies in exploration and discovery. Star Trek's catchphrase, "to boldly go where no man has gone before," became a literal epitaph for him. If you look up at the stars, you can imagine part of Gene Roddenberry still drifting among them, a cosmic tribute to the boundless potential he envisioned. While Roddenberry journeys through the cosmos, another cultural rebel chose a famously crowded Paris cemetery for his final resting place, but it's anything but peaceful. Jim Morrison, The Paris Pilgrimage. Jim Morrison's voice and lyrics shaped the psychedelic rock era of the 1960s, leading the Doors to iconic status with tracks like Light My Fire and Riders on the Storm. But in 1971, after battling personal demons and the suffocating pressures of fame, Morrison fled to Paris for a quiet life focused on poetry. Within months, he was found lifeless in a bathtub at the age of 27, leaving the world in shock. He was interred in Père Lachaise Cemetery, a sprawling labyrinth in eastern Paris that's the final home for literary giants, painters, and a multitude of other cultural icons. At first glance, Morrison's grave is small and unassuming, just a modest headstone inscribed with his name and a Greek phrase chosen by his father. Yet it's become one of the most visited sites in the cemetery. Fans from around the globe leave flowers, notes, and even bottles of whiskey. Some scrawl graffiti on nearby tombstones. Others hold impromptu jam sessions or candlelight vigils. Over the years, local authorities have tried to control the chaos, installing fences, posting guards, and even placing a protective cover over the grave. Still, Morrison's devoted admirers find ways to gather around, paying homage to the Lizard King in a place where French literary legends like Balzac and Oscar Wilde also rest. Despite the crowds, there's a certain poetry in Morrison's choice of final abode. He wanted to be among the great artistic spirits that once inspired him. In death, as in life, Jim Morrison stirs both devotion and controversy. Tupac Shakur, a smoked tribute. Tupac Shakur was more than just a rapper. He was a poet, actor, activist, and firebrand who spoke for the marginalized and challenged the status quo. Tragically killed in a 1996 drive-by, Tupac was only 25 when he left this world. Yet his departure was as unconventional as the life he led. While part of his ashes was scattered in a solemn ceremony on a Malibu beach, close friends and members of his group Outlaws added a shocking twist. They revealed that they mixed a portion of Tupac's remaining ashes with marijuana and smoked them, fulfilling a lyric in one of Tupac's songs that mentioned just such a scenario. Some see it as the ultimate tribute to his rebellious spirit. Others think it's too extreme. Either way, it's quintessential Tupac, raw, unapologetic, and loaded with meaning. Even in death, he remains one of hip-hop's most polarizing figures. Memorials and tributes pop up everywhere. From street murals in Los Angeles to academic essays examining his poetic resonance. Nearly 3 decades later, the question, "Where is Tupac buried?" doesn't have a single clear answer. His ashes are partly in the ocean, partly in the air, and partly in memory. For fans, it's a fitting reflection of an artist who shattered conventions at every turn. While Tupac's farewell was blunt and boisterous, another star from a galaxy far, far away found a more humorous way to handle her ashes. Carrie Fisher, resting in a Prozac pill. Carrie Fisher, beloved for her role as Princess Leia in the Star Wars saga, was also a renowned author, wit, and mental health advocate. She spoke openly about her struggles with bipolar disorder and substance issues, using humor as both a shield and a sword. When she passed in 2016, her family honored her candor in a way that only Carrie Fisher could have appreciated. Her ashes were placed in an urn shaped like a giant Prozac pill. Fisher's brother, Todd, explained that it was a nod to her outspoken approach to mental health, a final wink at the stigma she fought so fiercely against. Today, her remains rest beside her mother, Debbie Reynolds, at the Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills. Fans who stop by often leave letters praising her brash honesty and comedic take on life's toughest challenges. In a way, the pro-pill urn is a perfect reflection of Carrie Fisher's essence, empathetic yet sarcastic, unfiltered but deeply compassionate. She once said, "If my life wasn't funny, it would just be true, and that's unacceptable." That attitude endures, even in death, reminding us that humor can be a powerful way to face life's darkest moments. Not all final farewells involve a public gravesite. Up next is a music legend whose remains remain hidden from the public eye, a mysterious end for a famously private star. Section 9. Prince, the Mysterious Ashes. Prince Rogers Nelson was an artist of chameleon-like creativity, constantly reinventing himself through daring fashion, provocative lyrics, and groundbreaking sound. Yet for all his public performances, Prince guarded his privacy like a fortress. That secrecy extended to his death in 2016, when he passed away from what authorities called an accidental OD on fentanyl. After his sudden departure, the big question became, where would Prince be buried? Fans expected a massive memorial or a famous cemetery in Minneapolis, the city that shaped his musical identity. Instead, his family revealed that Prince's remains were cremated and placed in an undisclosed location. No official grave site, no open crypt, nothing. Some speculate his ashes might be kept at Paisley Park, his home and studio. Others insist he's scattered on private property. The truth remains unknown. It's as if Prince, who once declared he didn't want to be a star but a legend, decided that a final dose of intrigue would keep us guessing. For admirers, there's a certain poetry in that. He remains as enigmatic in death as he was on stage, leaving behind an everlasting aura of mystery. The next individual opted for a simpler route, no secrecy, but a farewell echoing a famous lyric, reminding us all he did it his way. Frank Sinatra, a burial with Jack Daniels and cigarettes. Frank Sinatra, the voice behind classics like My Way, New York, New York, and Fly Me to the Moon, was known for his swagger and no apologies attitude. When he died, in 1998, the question was, would this icon rest at some grand Hollywood landmark? Instead, he chose Desert Memorial Park in Palm Springs, a place he adored for its desert tranquility. Sinatra's headstone reads, "The best is yet to come," referencing one of his beloved songs. True to his larger-than-life persona, he was laid to rest with a bottle of Jack Daniels, a pack of Camel cigarettes, a Zippo lighter, and a few dimes. He used to keep dimes handy in case he needed to make payphone calls. Family, friends, and fans gather there, leaving tokens that reflect his taste for the good life. Anyone can visit. You'll find a surprisingly understated grave in a breezy cemetery that feels worlds away from the clamor of Los Angeles. Yet, those small personal items capture Sinatra's spirit as well as any glitzy memorial could. Like he sang, he lived by his own rules and left on his own terms. Some legends return to their roots, choosing the place they grew up for their final resting spot, even if it's far from any spotlight. Section 11. Hal Roach, back to the beginning. Hal Roach might not be a household name to everyone, but his comedic creations have entertained generations. He produced Laurel and Hardy and Our Gang, the Little Rascals, shaping Hollywood's early comedic landscape. Born in Elmira, New York in 1892, Roach soared in Los Angeles, earning an honorary Oscar and living to the remarkable age of 100. Yet when he passed in 1992, he chose not to be buried in California. Instead, he was taken back to his hometown of Elmira. Today, his grave lies in Woodlawn Cemetery, where he's in fitting company. Mark Twain is also buried there. Roach's marker is plain, listing only his name and dates, but fans who happen upon it often feel a sense of closeness to the man behind so many laughs. Why Elmira? Roach once said he never forgot where he came from, and he wanted to go back to his roots. In a world of glitz and glamour, his choice to return to a small New York cemetery is a humble nod to the power of home. For film buffs traveling off the beaten path, stopping at Woodlawn Cemetery can feel like a secret handshake with Hollywood history. Martha Raye, the entertainer who chose Fort Bragg. Nicknamed the Big Mouth for her unforgettable wide grin and brassy personality, Martha Raye was a star of screwball comedies and a beloved entertainer for American troops during World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. She performed in combat zones, took on honorary military ranks, and even trained as a medic. When she passed away in 1994, she didn't want a Hollywood grave. She wanted to be with the soldiers she loved. Her wish was fulfilled at Fort Bragg Main Post Cemetery in North Carolina, an Army post. She's the only civilian woman buried there, surrounded by the very service members whose spirits she lifted with her jokes and songs. Some visitors stumble upon her modest headstone and do a double take. Wait, is that Martha Raye? Indeed, it is, and it's a testament to her intense bond with the military community. Coins, notes, and small tokens from grateful fans appear regularly, often left by soldiers whose grandparents once saw her perform. It's rare for a Hollywood figure to lie in such a solemn military place, but for Raye, it's exactly where she belonged. Military honors aside, comedic flair can also be found in Hollywood's storied cemeteries, especially if you look at the tombstone of the man behind 1,000 cartoon voices. Mel Blanc. That's all, folks. Mel Blanc was the vocal chameleon who gave life to Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, and hundreds of other animated characters. Known as the Man of 1,000 Voices, he became a cornerstone of Looney Tunes, shaping childhoods for decades. When Blanc passed away in 1989, he was laid to rest in Hollywood Forever Cemetery, a hotspot for entertainment legends. But his tombstone stands out. It reads, "That's all, folks." If you've ever watched a Looney Tunes cartoon, you know that's Porky Pig's signature send-off. In a way, it's both a playful homage and a final bow. Fans still stop by to pay homage, leaving behind cartoon drawings, stuffed animals, and sometimes candy. Some swear they can almost hear Bugs Bunny's, "Hey, what's up, Doc?" drifting. through the air. It might sound silly, but that's the kind of emotional bond people form with Mel Blanc's characters. The man with 1,000 voices may have gone quiet, but his comedic spirit echoes in that whimsical tombstone inscription. Speaking of whimsical, one legendary vampire actor insisted on being buried in his most famous costume, turning a Hollywood forever ceremony into something eerily cinematic. Bela Lugosi, buried in the Dracula cape. In 1931, Bela Lugosi's portrayal of Count Dracula on screen defined the vampire image for generations. The accent, the cape, the penetrating stare. Off-screen, he battled typecasting, craving roles beyond the undead Count. Yet his final farewell only cemented his eternal bond with the blood-sucking aristocrat. When Lugosi died in 1956, his family decided to bury him wearing the full Dracula cape. Some say it was his personal wish. Others claim it was simply the outfit that best represented his greatest legacy. Either way, it's a hauntingly romantic detail. His grave lies in Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, not far from the epicenter of Hollywood. Fans occasionally leave plastic fangs, garlic bulbs, and notes addressed to Count Dracula. The site might not be as massive a tourist draw as Marilyn Monroe's crypt or Jim Morrison's Paris plot, but for horror aficionados, it's akin to visiting the ultimate shrine. Whispered rumors claim that during the funeral, friends recited lines from Dracula. Whether it's myth or fact, it adds to the eerie allure. Bela Lugosi went out draped in the costume that made him immortal on screen. While Lugosi embraced his theatrical identity, one tough guy actor chose a far more low-key place to lie, a tranquil Vermont cemetery. Marilyn Monroe, the star still shining in a crypt. Marilyn Monroe, born Norma Jean Mortensen, was the quintessential Hollywood icon. Her platinum blonde image and magnetic charm lit up classics like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and The 7-Year Itch. Yet her final resting spot is more understated than you'd expect for one of Tinseltown's brightest lights. When she died far too young in 1962, her ex-husband, baseball legend Joe DiMaggio, arranged for her to be buried at Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery in Los Angeles. Instead of a traditional grave in the ground, she resides in a wall crypt in a corridor known as the Corridor of Memories. It's a modest space, and DiMaggio wanted to protect her from the unending chaos that shadowed her during life. Ironically, that goal hasn't quite panned out, since fans have turned Marilyn's crypt into a perpetual tourist spot. Visitors leave flowers, love notes, and even lipstick marks pressed onto the marble. Over time, the smooches have left stains, a testament to her enduring appeal. As if that weren't intriguing enough, Hugh Hefner, the Playboy founder, famously purchased the crypt next to her in 1992 to ensure that his final resting place would be side by side with Marilyn's. Some find that detail romantic. Others think it's a bit creepy. Either way, Marilyn's memory continues to captivate. She was a foster child who skyrocketed to global fame, only to struggle with loneliness and prescription troubles. In death, she remains an icon. Her name whispered through the halls of that small, tucked-away cemetery, proving that legends never really fade. One comedic genius also rests in LA, but he left something on his tombstone that'll make you laugh even after you've left the cemetery. Hunter S. Thompson, ashes fired into the sky. Hunter S. Thompson, the father of gonzo journalism, lived a life that was perpetually over the edge. From fear and loathing in Las Vegas to his wild political coverage, he cultivated a persona of excess, irreverence, and boundary-pushing creativity. His farewell in 2005 was no exception. Funded by actor and friend Johnny Depp, Thompson's ashes were blasted into the Colorado sky from a 153-foot tower shaped like a double-thumbed fist, a symbol of his gonzo style. The event cost over $2 million and included a mix of fireworks, celebrities, and heartfelt tributes. The tower stood on Thompson's own Owl Farm property, where he had written much of his work. This spectacle was simultaneously a funeral, a celebration, and a final defiant act, capturing the spirit of a man who once said, "Buy the ticket, take the ride, For some, it was the ultimate tribute, letting the writer's remains literally go out with a bang. Others considered it a flamboyant last gasp of hedonism. Either way, Thompson's end was as unorthodox as the life he led, ensuring no one would ever forget the force of nature he was. While Thompson's ashes soared into the air, another star decided to give back to the earth, quite literally, by being buried in a suit that turns the body into new life. Luke Perry, the mushroom suit burial. Luke Perry won hearts as Dylan, McKay in Beverly Hills 90210, and later captivated a new generation in Riverdale. Off-screen, he was known for being warm, down to earth, and concerned about the environment. When he passed unexpectedly in 2019 at the age of 52, his family honored that concern in a unique way. Perry was buried in a biodegradable mushroom suit, a cutting-edge concept designed to help decompose the body and neutralize toxins, returning nutrients to the soil. His daughter, Sophie, revealed his choice on social media, calling it a beautiful tribute to his love for nature. The special suit, created by a company called Coeo, contains mushrooms and other microorganisms that accelerate decomposition, making the burial far more eco-friendly than traditional methods. Although the exact gravesite remains private, it's believed to be on his Tennessee farm. Friends and fans describe it as a quiet, rustic spot, in tune with Perry's desire for a sustainable afterlife. It's not a flashy, star-studded farewell, but rather a peaceful statement that resonates with today's growing movement for green funerals. Even beyond the screen, Luke Perry continued to be a role model, sparking conversations about how we care for the planet, right down to our final moments. Lee Marvin, the Marine among war heroes. Lee Marvin was the rugged face of films like The Dirty Dozen and Cat Ballou, known for playing tough, no-nonsense characters who took charge and never backed down. Yet for all his Hollywood fame, Marvin chose a final resting place almost no one would have predicted: Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. Why Arlington? Because before he was a movie star, Marvin was a real-life warrior. He served in the U.S. Marine Corps during World War II, fighting in the Pacific, where he was wounded in battle. He earned a Purple Heart and carried his war experiences quietly, rarely mentioning his service once he stepped into the spotlight. When he passed in 1987, his family honored his wish to be buried among soldiers, not celebrities. His headstone is modest, listing only his name, rank, and service dates. No mention of the Oscar he won for Cat Ballou. No nod to his Hollywood resume. Just Lee Marvin, U.S. Marine. If you visit Arlington, you'll find his grave in Section 7A, surrounded by rows of stark white markers belonging to men and women who served their country. It's a profound reminder that Marvin valued his identity as a Marine over his identity as a star. Fans who trek there to pay respects quickly realize there's no glamour in that patch of land, only a powerful sense of honor that perfectly matches the man Lee Marvin was. But not every star wants even a name on their tombstone. Up next is an actor whose final spot remains unmarked. Section 19, Bob Marley, resting in the roots of reggae. Bob Marley's music transcended borders, uniting people in the name of love, unity, and political consciousness. Born in the small Jamaican village of 9 Mile, he rose from poverty to become a global icon of reggae. When cancer claimed him in 1981 at just 36, Marley was brought back home, to 9 Mile itself. His body rests in a modest mausoleum on the very grounds where he was born and raised. Today, that site doubles as the Bob Marley Museum, drawing fans who traverse Jamaica's lush countryside to pay their respects. Many describe it as an emotional journey. The scenic hills, the quiet paths, and the simple community vibe reflect Marley's spiritual and musical roots. Visitors tour the small house where he spent his youth, see the rock where he liked to meditate, and learn about his deeply held Rastafarian beliefs. Toward the end of the museum walk lies the mausoleum, unadorned, but infused with a profound sense of reverence. Much like his music, Bob Marley's final resting place is a conduit for peace and introspection, reminding everyone that you can reach the world and still stay true to your roots. Each of these stories shows that death, for all its sorrow, can also be a final statement of who these stars truly were behind the bright lights. From Lee Marvin's humble white headstone in a sea of military graves to Gene Roddenberry's ashes floating among the stars he once imagined, each final resting spot reveals a profound truth about these legends. Whether it's Fred Gwyn disappearing into an unmarked Maryland plot or Tupac Shakur's remains transforming into smoke on a Malibu beach, these unexpected farewells speak volumes about the personalities behind the public personas. Some sought privacy, others embraced spectacle. A few wanted to merge with nature, while still others found beauty in returning to the place where it all began. In the end, the glitz and glamour of Hollywood matter far less than the lasting impression these icons made through their art, their performances, and even their final requests. Each story here underscores one truth: legends never truly rest. Their spirit lives on in every fan's pilgrimage, in every hush that falls at their grave, or in every starry gaze that drifts skyward to remember a creator who boldly went. And so we leave you with a question. If you could choose your final chapter, how would you write it? For these unforgettable names, their last act was as unique and captivating as anything they did in life, proving that sometimes the real show starts after the curtain falls.